Hi friend and welcome. I'm Anna Helman and today I want to show how you can take your stamps, ink, and paper and create amazing artwork. Now, I know we create beautiful things all the time, but today we're talking something a little bit different. We're talking like the next level. Like we are going to create Bob Ross paintings with stamps, ink, and paper today. Do you know who Bob Ross is? If you don't know who Bob Ross is, I'm clearly a lot older than you. But anyway, we're going to create some amazing natural looking scenes. I want you to watch along to see how you can do this yourself. Let's get started. I've been wanting to do a tutorial like this for quite a while to show you how you can take some kind of natural looking stamp and die set and turn it into truly amazing artwork. So here's the bundle I'm going to be using. It's called Scenic Adventure. We have some tree stamps and dies. We have some mountains, some things that look like water. We are going to do some really fun things with this. Once you see some of these techniques, you'll see how you can use some of the basic products in your collection, like your blending brushes, for example, and start to make truly amazing natural looking scenes for any of your projects. So what we are going to do, I have 3 cards we are going to create together. I have some of the pieces prepared. We will do some of the artwork together, and then I will wait until towards the end. I'll assemble all the cards off camera to save you time watching. We'll come back and I'll show you all of the end results of these 3 cards. So what we are going to do for this first one, here you can see I pulled in a piece of designer paper. It's going to be an amazing background. So this one right here, truly anyone can do this because I pulled in that piece of designer paper. It's from a paper pack called Splendid Autumn if you are interested. And I'll have links to all the products I'm using in the video description below. But what we're going to do for this first one is some blending using our blending brushes onto these die cuts. So anyone can create die cuts, right? It's very simple, very simple. What I'm going to do on the bottom of these, I like that this particular die it leaves the paper below. So you can decide how much paper you want to use down here, how you want to use that. But I am going to tear this. I like the natural effect that we get with the tearing. You'll see here in a few minutes how basically this is going to be like the bottom edge of a tree line that will move into some water down a little bit lower. But what I want to do just to add a little bit of a natural touch is some blending on these dies. These die cuts to add a little bit of extra color. So I made these out of Mossy Meadow is the color, and I'm adding some pretty peacock ink over the top. We're going to do the same thing on the edges of these pieces. And around the bottoms. I knew that tearing would pick up some really great ink color, so I wanted to make sure I did the tearing before I did the blending. Do a little bit on this one. It's got our little tree here, and then we'll see how the flowers do. Sometimes I have a vision, and sometimes it works out great, and sometimes it doesn't. I'm sure you understand. But as I was looking at this with the purple paper, I was like, oh, I think that might be really cute if I use that little flower die cut to create some flowers for the very base. So I used that purple paper, wanted to add some of the color to the leaves and leave the purple showing on the flowers. So what we are going to do, what I will do here in a few minutes, is basically assemble these 2 tree die cuts on top of each other. We're going to add some trees around the edges and add a greeting, maybe some finishing touches, some embellishments. And that is going to be a really fun card that truly anyone can make that. It did not take any artistic talent whatsoever. Let's move on to the next two. Now, my vision for this is we're going to have an amazingly beautiful sky in the background. We're going to add color to these mountains, have a little bit of water over here, and then the trees here towards the front. So let's work on the sky first. And what I just have so much fun. Anytime I do anything with the sky, I just love it. They turn out so pretty. And what's fun is you can use any colors, truly. Any colors for these. So you could do like yellows and oranges and reds for, you know, a traditional sunrise or sunset. You can add in the pinks. Calypso coral is one of my favorite colors to add in for sunrises and sets because it's more of a corally color. But then you can get into the purples and the blues, and you can do whatever you want and really try out lots of different colors with these if this is something you get into. So I have Daffodil Delight was the first color I added, and now I am adding Petunia Pop, which seems to be my favorite new color. I have been using this color over and over again. So I am debating how deep I want to get with this petunia. I think I wanted it a little bit deeper right up there at the top, but I want to get that nice fade into the daffodil. So I think we'll go with that. So that's pretty easy. If you have any trouble with blending brushes, I just encourage you to play around with them, practice a little bit. And the thing that really makes it the hardest, or people have the most problems with, is when you get too much ink on the brush and you don't dab it off on your scrap paper when you start. And then just start blending in from the edge and just practice, use a soft touch, and you should get a pretty good blend with that. So I think that is going to make an amazing sky and background for our card. What I want to bring in next is the mountain. So I cut this with the two mountain dies. There's one that does this entire section, and I laid it right beside this one to get this lovely mountain range. I like that they're separate, so it gives you options as far as how you use them. What I want to do here is I'm going to start with creating the water that's going to be in this section. Then we're going to fill in with some trees and greenery around it. But I want to start with that, and it's going to be basically a lighter colored reflection of the sky. So I am going to use this piece of cardstock to create a line right about there. And so I'm doing the opposite. I'm doing yellow on top, and then I am going to do the purple down below. So like I said, I want this to be a little bit lighter. I'm not too worried about where exactly the color for this goes because I'm going to cover it up with some green here in a minute on the sides. But we'll do some yellow. And then below that, we'll do a little bit of this Petunia Pop. So I may do a little bit of stamping on top of that to make it look a little bit more like water. I know right now it looks nothing like water. That's totally okay. Stick with me. Stick with me. It's going to be amazing. So let's work on these mountains a little bit. I wanted to get that water area colored in first. Now let's work on the mountains a bit. And I want to, of course, add a little bit of snow to the top. So I've got my white ink, and you can play around with your techniques here. You can swirl, you can dab with these mountains especially. You know, the coloring doesn't have to be smooth. It can be rough, it can be patchy. But I want to get some of this white on the tops of these peaks. Make it look a little bit lighter in color. And below that, I want to bring out some more of the dark colors. So I will be adding, this is Smoky Slate. And as you're adding in colors like this, you can use different tools. The blending brushes are great. You may also want to play around with sponges or sponge daubers as well. But I want to bring in some of these deeper colors as we get down into the lower mountains, the shadows. And if I need to, I can bring this back in and keep that color separate from what's down below with that water area. Okay, so I like that. We've got some patchiness, some of the deeper grays. I think I may go a little bit darker, just right down here at the base of this. As you get down lowest, you're going to have some more of those shadows, dark colors down there. Okay, now my paper shifted just a little bit. I'll fill in right here. We will add in some greens around the edges, and you're probably still wondering, how in the world is this going to start looking like the scene? Maybe you're starting to see it come together. I don't know. I would love to know what you think about this tutorial. Please comment and tell me. I have not done something like this in a long, long time, so I would love to know your thoughts. Okay, now what we're going to do is add in these greens on the side. So this is basically, I don't know, we'll call it a lake or a river, but there's water here. We're adding the greens on the sides. I will add, let's do some mossy meadow first, and then I am going to bring in some of that pretty peacock. I think I may just add a soft base of this mossy color as a place to start. And then we'll bring in the pretty peacock. The tree die cuts that I created for this, I created them with the pretty peacock, so I definitely want to bring in some of that color. But here is what I did. I'm going to be honest. So if you're wondering how in the world I got my inspiration for this, friends, I typed in Bob Ross paintings. I pulled up a bunch of pictures and I just started looking through them to find anything that I thought I might be able to create with stamps and ink. Okay, that's all. That's all I did. And then I just kind of looked at the paintings. I was like, oh, that one seems doable. Okay, yeah, let's do that. So then I just started looking them to see, well, how can I do that? How can I make those little lines that come in and out on the edge of the water? Well, I can make them just like this with a piece of paper and my blending brush and some green ink. And I do need to bring in, we'll do this once more, and then we'll bring in a bit of the peacock color. Let's do this over here a couple of times. So the water goes back and forth, it meanders around, right? In the painting, that was my inspiration for this. There was some white along with these lines right here that I imagine would have either been like a reflection or maybe like waves, a little bit of wave. Okay, let's add in a bit of the peacock, and then we are going to be, that might be it. That might be it on this one. So I'll just add a bit of the peacock kind of all over. We'll add a little bit more at the edges. Do some over here. And we're going to do one more thing. I said we may do a little bit of stamping to make this look a little bit more like water. So here is the stamp that has lines going back and forth that I think are just a really nice way to create the effect of water. And I am only going to stamp a section of this about as wide as that water is, and add that. Now let's do some stamping off, and we'll add it in down here. We'll do a darker one down here at the bottom, and can go back, do some stamping off. So we've got some of those lines here that look a little bit like water now. Okay, let's look at our pieces that we've created, and we'll come back here in a minute. I will have all of these put together. Am I allowed to say that's amazing? Oh, I love that. This is where, when I talk about the different colors you can play around with for sky and water, oh my gosh, I just love it. Okay, so this is what we're gonna have. We'll come back. It will be finished with a greeting and some embellishments. Last but not least, I said we were going to do 3 of these. So what we are going to do on this last one is basically a sky with the reflection in the water, and then we're going to add some trees. The trees are going to look completely different than on the other ones, and we are going to do all of this with ink. No die cuts on this one. I have Misty Moonlight ink, Night of Navy, Lost Lagoon, Calypso, Coral. So what I want to do for this one, the sky is going to be these 2 colors, the lagoon and the coral. Grab my blue blending brush, and here is the one I use for coral. I am going to do, and see, this is where I'm debating, do I want the coral on the bottom and the blue on the top, or do I want it reversed? I think I'm going to do it that way. So we are going to start, and I'll actually do the bottom half first, which will be the water. So this is the section I want to be lighter in color. So we'll do the coral here in the center. When I do the top up, I'll put a piece of paper across, and then the top up will be darker. So that is a lovely shade of Calypso Coral, in my opinion. Let's add the lagoon from the bottom up, Lost Lagoon. So this is the reflection of the sky and the water. We can make this as dark as we want to, or as light as we want to. We can blend it as much as we want to, or we can leave those colors separate. Now, we'll put our piece of cardstock back over the top of that. So from here up is going to be sky. So I'm going to start with the darker coral here. And blend upward. And from the top down, I'll blend with the lagoon, and we'll make this a bit darker. So I may have to do this a couple of times. This is where, if you pick darker colors, you don't have to do as much blending, but you do also take the chance that you may end up with more unevenness. If you end up with any blotches or splotches with the dark inks, they can be a lot more noticeable than they are with the light ink. Okay. So does it look like a pond with a sky above it? Not at all, but we are going to make it. We're going to get there. We'll get there. Stick with me. Here, what I want to do is start adding in our plant life. Our plant material here is going to be dark in color. It is going to be navy. So this set had this flower stamp in it that is a little bit taller than what I am envisioning here. So I decided I would just ink part of it and stamp it all the way across here. And I'm going to do this several times. After I do it several times, we'll get some layering here with that ink, so it won't be quite as noticeable that it's some cartoony looking flowers, right? Because that doesn't really fit in with what you may not know what my vision is yet. The other day my daughter was trying to explain something to me and I just didn't understand the vision, but she was the creator and I wasn't understanding the vision. So anyway, here we go. We'll go across here. The cartoony flowers were not my vision, so we're gonna stamp this multiple times. We're going for kind of just some bushes or plant life around the edge of the pond, let's say. Now I am going to use, I could use a sponge dauber. I could also use one of my mini blending brushes. So I'm debating, some of this, I wasn't sure how I would want to do it until I started creating. So I'm going to start adding some of that blue now. And I'm going to we'll do some blending around this. Some of this is ending up down here in the water, which is okay because I actually wanted basically a reflection. Wanted it to look like a reflection. It's not probably looking much like a reflection yet, but again, stick with me, stick with me. So now I'm going to add a few of these small trees. So I'm only going to ink part of my stamp. I'm going to do the short ones first. And each time I stamp one, I am going to stamp its reflection down. See that? So now we're starting to get that reflection. So I'm going to do a few of these short ones and then I'll start doing some taller ones. The only reason for that is just because that way I'll keep the extra ink off of the stamp. On the rest of it, I'll keep it off for now. And then we'll start to ink up a bit more in a few minutes. Okay, so we'll do up. We'll do down. Let's do a little bit taller. So we'll do a few this height. Kind of overlap a little bit, get a few up close and personal to each other. Let's go a little taller. With any stamping project, and I'm going to say this type in particular, anytime you do something, you're like, oh, that does not look good. Does that ever happen? Does that ever happen? That does not look good. Stick with it. Stay the course, okay? I'm gonna be honest, I've done a few things already in this tutorial that I'm like, yep, nope, that's not really looking very good, but it's okay as you stick with it and keep adding. Those little strange things become a lot less noticeable. Okay, I'm gonna clean off my stamp. I wanna do a couple of shorter ones here. And I'll do one right here. And what do we think? What do we think? That's pretty good. Let's do one, clean off my stamp one more time. We're gonna do one little shorty right here. And then I think we are going to move on, okay? So now I want to stamp some of these big trees. We'll stamp some big trees. We have 3 different sizes of trees here. We will stamp them in the foreground. And just create kind of a fun look of these trees up here on the sides of the pond up front. So we'll have a few of the big tall ones, some of the shorter, fatter ones. Now, if I need to, I can come in with a blending brush or a sponge dauber and fill in some of that color so that it doesn't look like they're growing in the pond, you know? Put that one there. We can do some more stamping of these down here. We can just make it thicker with these. And let's do a little blending. Fill these colors in a little bit. So what I'm debating right now is, am I going to add that water stamp in? And I would love to know what you think. Yes or no? Yes or no on the water stamp? Curious. And I think I'm gonna go yes. We're gonna go yes on the water stamp. So I am going to use the smoky slate ink, but I am going to stamp off with it so that we get that faded color. And I am going to practice a little bit down here just to get a feel for what it looks like. So I really like that. So I want to stamp off and then stamp up here onto my project. And I think I'm just going to do it every so often and not do it across all of the water to get sort of an irregular look. So let's look at this up closer so you can see a little bit better what we're working with. So what do you think? I think we are going to call this one done. So give me just a second. I will be right back with all of these cards finished and put together for you. Okay, friends, so here are the finished cards. So let's take a look at them up close one by one. This one, we had that designer series paper in the background from the Splendid Autumn paper pack. Added these die cuts on top. This one came together really simply. I used that really big greeting. I decided to stamp all my greetings directly on the card. I didn't want to cover up any of the beautiful scenery. So for this one, I just added these tree die cuts on top and the greeting and a few embellishments. And last but not least, I think this one, which I want to know in the comments, which one is your favorite, okay? 1, 2, or 3. I feel like this one might be my favorite. I'm not sure. And it was just a white piece of cardstock, right? So again, just stamped the greeting on there, added a few embellishments. So friends, you can create Bob Ross paintings too. So here's a few ideas that you can try with either the Scenic Adventure stamp and die set that I tried today, or with another set that you may already have in your collection. So let's chat. So today's chat needs to be about LifeWise Academy. I hadn't shared about it before I decided I'm not going to talk about this until we find out that it's actually going to happen at our school. I think I'd mentioned it once, but anyway, so LifeWise Academy is a religious, biblical teaching program for kids where kids can get dismissed from school to go to this during the day. For a lot of kids in a lot of schools, it's once per week for usually about 40 minutes. It could be more than that. It could be less than that. There's various laws, legal things going on that, so there was a court case, I guess, in 1952, I believe is what I heard, that established that kids can be dismissed from school for religious purposes as long as it is off-site, the parents agree to this, and it is privately funded. So that kind of established the precedent for this to be able to be started in Ohio several years ago. There are I believe at least 350 schools now across the country that have LifeWise programs in 30 some states. I know Ohio and Indiana, it's where I used to live and where I live now, I have lots of these. I've been seeing a lot of LifeWise Academy signs in people's yards. So I got asked several months back if I would serve on the committee to try and get this into our local school. And while I was not accepting any new responsibilities, as soon as I saw what it was for, I was like, yep, sign me up. I'm in. I would love to help get this into our school. Kids today. I would not want to be a kid today. Would you want to be a kid today? I would not want to grow up with social media and phones and devices where what I like to say is like, remember what high school was like? What would it be like if you couldn't leave, if you came home and you were still connected to all the people and the things? Like, no, thank you. And I probably would have been the one that didn't want to pay attention to my phone and whatever, but still, I wouldn't want to do it today. Some of the situations these kids are growing up in at home, some of the things they're experiencing, some of these kids have parents who are addicts. We just have all kinds of situations. And when I see some of the things that kids are going through and people really like to make fun of, like, why does this kid want to act like a animal or what? And like, all I can think is like, how sad does their life have to be that is, I don't know, that. So anyway, if we can offer them anything positive, anything hopeful, we are going to do it. A lot of this program is like character traits, like responsibility and kindness and, helping others and things like that. So we had our meeting with the superintendent today, didn't know what to expect exactly. And so the LifeWise person kind of shared the whole spiel about what they do, what it is, what they do. We shared a little bit about how we got involved and what we would like to see, why we would like to see this offered in our community. Superintendent sitting there, hasn't really said much, don't know what to expect. And it was so refreshing to hear what came out of his mouth about how I don't remember the words he used. Yes, they want to be able to offer this to our students. They have seen other programs, not exactly like LifeWise, but kids involved in some of these extracurriculars that are related, and how it affects kids, how these are the kids who are the leaders in the school, and these are the kids who are being kind to others and not bullying, and how they're academically excelling and all these things. And he's like, yeah, how do we do this? And, is there a way to reach the kids who need it most? And it was just extremely refreshing to be a part of this meeting. And yes. So if you ever look at the world and think like, man, I'd really like to help kids today and I'm not really sure what to do, here is something you can look into if it's something you would like to try and get started at your school. It's called LifeWise Academy. Search for it online. You'll find the website. Different states have different laws. I know where I'm at, it is in the state laws. It is also in our school policy that kids can be dismissed for religious instruction. So because both of them guaranteed it, they basically couldn't say no to us anyway. But I know Ohio, they just signed a law into it. There's a lot of things happening in a lot of states. There's a state that just passed that the 10 Commandments are going to be, I feel like it's somewhere down south. I don't know. It might be Arkansas. I'm not sure. 10 Commandments are going to be displayed in schools again and taught for historical value. And there's a lot of things happening in a lot of places. And for one, we can cause some heated debate here. Not everyone will agree with me, absolutely. But our country was founded as a Christian nation. There's so much information out there if you want to do any digging past what they've put in our school textbooks. We're a Christian nation. I believe very strongly that's why our nation has grown to be what it has been. We have walked very far away from our Christian roots, and I am hoping it kind of looks like things might be starting to turn around. So I am trying to do my part here. If this is something you want to look into, maybe you could get started at your school. That would be amazing. So just wanted to share. Let's do whatever we can to help these kids today, right? I wouldn't want to be one of them. So anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. I hope you'll be back again next time. And I hope that something I offer can help inspire you to hand make with love.